Partygrenada, thank you once again for joining us for this press briefing. This is our 9 o'clock briefing, and this evening we are going to hear updates from Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, Disaster Coordinator Dr. Terence Walters, and ACP Vannie Curwen. We will begin this briefing with an update from the RGPF, so I now invite ACP Vannie Curwen to update you.
Good evening, everyone viewing and listening. I am honored to provide this briefing on behalf of the RGPF with regards to the passage of Hurricane Beryl. I will premise my presentation on two parts. I'll speak specific to Carriacou, and then I'll speak nationally as to what we have done and continue to do as an organization as we go through this difficult time. Let me take the opportunity to say how saddened do we feel as an organization having to deal with this issue again, 20 years from what we have had from Ivan 20 years ago. Our response to Carriacou, the leadership of the RGPF has decided that ACP Mitchell will give leadership to what is happening on the ground in Carriacou. So he is in Carriacou currently with a team of police officers providing safety, security, and other services as Carriacou goes through the difficult time that it is going through now. I'll talk a little bit about our security concentration on the ground in Carriacou. So currently, what we're doing in Carriacou as a security organization is providing static duties to shelters. So wherever there are shelters, we are ensuring that peace and safety and tranquility remains. Our mobile and static patrols are in place, ensuring that we keep the peace both day and night and in strategic areas and strategic locations. We're providing security for relief supply. Whatever comes in, we have to ensure that it is safe and get to its destination, and we're providing that kind of overall security to ensure that things are done orderly, decently, and in a manner that is consistent with what we do as Grenadians. We're working also with our partners and agencies to deliver all of the services that the people of Carriacou would need at this particular time. The RGPF has not been left out in terms of damages. We have faced the damages just as the rest of the population. Our physical plant or police station has suffered some damages. Two of our transportation have been damaged in the process. And most heartbreaking is the fact that over 95% of all police officers who live in Carriacou have lost their homes. And this is a trying time for us, but the men and women are trained for this, and though it is difficult, they are still on the ground delivering the kind of service that the Grenadian population or the Carriacou population expect of us as a trained organization to deliver services at this time. We have also, among the injuries, there are 3 police officers who received injuries in Carriacou. Those injuries are not life-threatening. They have received medical attention and they are healing and recuperating as I speak. It is important to note that there are no major crimes reported in Carriacou and there are no known security threats. There were some minor issues that have been dealt with, but there were no arrests made based on the circumstances and exercising the discretion of the law enforcement officers on the ground. There is nothing to be concerned about, and so we are not particularly alarmed, but we are not dropping our guard. We have sent up a team of officers and we continue to rotate that team every week or every 2 weeks to ensure that we have fresh eyes and ears and hands and feet on the ground in Carriacou. We will continue to do that as long as the situation requires us so to do. The men and women of the RGPF are well motivated, whether it's on the mainland or in Carriacou. Though it is difficult times, we are trained for this and we are delivering what the population expects of us to deliver. I want to talk a little bit now as what has happened on the mainland before, during, and after the blow. I think I can say with some degree of certainty that the RGPF have been better prepared in 2024 than we were in 2004. A lot has happened in 2004 that we were not particularly pleased with. We've learned the lesson in 2004. We have closed the gap and we were better prepared to deal with Beryl as it approaches our shore. We have been meeting with our commanders days before we've had the actual blow. We have been planning, we have been preparing, we've been ensuring that our resources were in place. We have done our forward deployment well in advance of the blow. Our safe houses were utilized well in advance of the arrival of Beryl. Our static mobile patrol and foot patrol were well in place well before Beryl get to our shows. We have no major reported crimes, just prior, during, and after Beryl. Noteworthy, though, is the fact that we have again seized another illegal firearm, and I think I want to say that because one of our major focus and major trust is ridding Grenada of illegal firearms, and we've been doing excellent in that regards over the last couple of weeks and months. Led by our commissioner, who have shown tremendous leadership in the process. After the blow, immediately after the blow, we have taken the opportunity to traverse the country, paying visits to our stations and looking after the well-being and welfare of our men and women in uniform. We did not get as far as we wanted to go. He took one side of the island, I took the other. We were able to get through the entire eastern side, clearing the road as we traversed. And we got to Chantimel, and we could not have come down the rest of the western side, so we had to go back. But the tremendous spirit that we have seen from our Grenadians is worthy of mention. It was commendable. You see volunteers on the road clearing the passage for vehicles to move. I think this time around, the RGPF got it right. We were spot on. We dealt with all of the issues prior to the blow, so we had very little to deal with during and after the blow. And I think, as I indicated before, lessons learned from 2004, and we're going to continue to build in those structures that were not present in 2004 to ensure that not only this time around, but whatever comes, we'll be better prepared and well able to deal with it. So I do want to say that we have done what we were asked to do. We ensure that the peace, safety, and tranquility of the nation remains before, during, and after the blow. We ensure that our teams were in place in case there were any eventuality of looting. We have had advanced forces. We were able to share some of our resources with our sisters and brothers at Her Majesty Prison. I think we all know now what has happened in 2004. When after the blow of Ivan, a number of our prisoners made it to the street. We were adamant this time around that was not going to happen. And so we have strengthened the security capabilities of the prison to ensure that we had a team at the prison well prepared, well armed, well resourced to deal with whatever eventuality that would have come out of the prison. Happy to say that we have had no issues at the prison which relates to prisoners, and that resources that we've put up there we did not have to use. So all of that speaks to the tremendous planning that we have had, ensuring that whatever the season 2024 brings on us in terms of national or natural disasters, the RGPF is in a position and will be in a position to respond. So that is the report from the RGPF, and at some point I'll be willing to answer whatever question that is asked with regards to what we have done and what we continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you, ACP Curwen, for your updates and all your hard work. We know that you are doing everything in your power to keep our nation safe at this difficult time, during this difficult time. We want to now hear from the National Disaster Coordinator, Dr. Terence Walters.
Thank you very much, and good night. Yes, good night, everyone. From the National Disaster Management Agency, we continue our response to Hurricane Beryl, and the Emergency Operations Center, that's the National Emergency Operations Center, remains open and continues to function. We are focusing on the relief efforts, and relief efforts continue. We have received relief items from local, regional, and international, and several organizations have pledged resources in the coming days and weeks, and so the relief items are being collected, sorted, and being dispatched to the affected areas. In particular, Carriacou and Partygrenada, but we are also focusing on our brothers and sisters in the northern parishes that have been impacted and require some relief. Now, some of the items that we have received: flour, sugar, toilet paper, bleach, tarpaulin, corned beef, sardines, cricks. We've received pasta, and importantly, farmers came together and supplied quite a huge amount of watermelon for the people of Carriacou. It was brought specifically to be sent to the people of Carriacou and Partygrenada, And so we are really thankful to the farmers for that contribution today. And it was a significant amount of watermelon. Those have been loaded onto a boat and will be delivered to Carriacou and Petit Martinique first thing tomorrow morning. Other items received: peas, diapers, mackerel, some shelter kits, hygiene supplies, milk, baby formula, blankets, and then assorted canned foods. So all those items have been received and will be dispatched to our brothers and sisters in Carriacou and Petit Martinique, and also, again, those who have been impacted in the northern parishes. So some of the things we can report about Carriacou, and because as the days progress, there will be improvements in the conditions, but we have to ensure and do what we can to avoid overwhelming the system, the circumstances in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. So there's very limited mobile service, which is extremely limited, but we have established VHF radio service with the Emergency Operations Center in Carriacou. Okay, so that's good news. The Ministry of Health today confirmed 2 deaths in Carriacou and 1 in Grenada as a result of the passage of Hurricane Beryl. So we extend condolences to the families, friends, and loved ones of those who lost their lives. But no death was recorded in Petit Martinique. To update that the airport at Carriacou, well, the airport and seaport in Grenada are open. Airport in Carriacou is accessible, and it is accommodating flights, but emergency relief flights. The seaport is also accessible and is accepting vessels for emergency relief. A 3-member team was dispatched to Carriacou today to provide psychosocial support. They will be stationed at the Emergency Operations Center, and we will also try to get that team over to Petit Martinique to start the process of preparing psychosocial support. And also 2 other members will be dispatched to Carriacou tomorrow, again for a couple of days, to provide some initial psychosocial support. We understand that we will definitely need a structured program of providing psychosocial support to the residents of Carriacou and Petit Martinique who have been significantly impacted by this hurricane. And finally here, 13 emergency shelters remain activated, open, and there are 383 persons in these 13 shelters, which are in the northern parishes. So we continue to provide for the shelteries, and like was announced earlier, tomorrow morning we will continue our distribution of supplies to these shelters that remain open. So the National Disaster Management Agency continues to monitor this situation as it unfolds and provide the services that are necessary. The Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency will dispatch 2 persons to provide operational support tomorrow, and an additional rapid needs assessment team to compile a detailed report of the damage. And we would continue to work with CDMA to ensure that we address this situation and be able to access the resources that are necessary so that we can recover from this disaster. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Walters, and thank you for your updates. And I just want to also say thanks to the Rotary Club, the Grenada Cadet Corps, and the Girl Guides Association who came out today to help with packaging of the supplies for the shelters. We now want to hear from our Prime Minister, the Honorable Deacon Mitchell. Sir, take it away.
Thank you, Press Secretary, and pleasant good night to the citizens of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. We continue to provide you with updates on the aftermath of Hurricane Beryl. I will start by providing an update in relation to electricity restoration activities by GRENLEC. A slide showing the state of the restoration process should be available for showing on your screen. And once it's up, I will walk us through what the slides are saying. Right, so this is as of today's date. It's an overview provided by GRENLEC. It starts by parish in the first column, total number of customers per parish in the second column, the number of customers who are currently offline in terms of absolute numbers, and the percentage that it reflects. This is only for Grenada. The state of Carriacou and Petit Martinique remains the same as yesterday and as Monday and Sunday since the terrible onslaught of Hurricane Beryl. So if you look at the first row, St. George, you will see that total customers pre-Hurricane Beryl, 28,100. The total number of customers who are now offline, that is customers who are yet to have their power restored, is only 794 customers. And so you have a 2.83% left to be reconnected. So in the parish of St. George, we almost have total reconnection of all of the customers. There may be instances where the customers' homes themselves are damaged or would have been lost in its entirety. And so it's unlikely that we will have any significant improvement in that 2.83% to remain offline. In the case of St. David, there are 6,891 total customers. We still have 1,900 customers who are offline, and that represents about 27.5% of customers who are yet to have energy restored. In St. Mark, there are 2,149 customers in total. 621 are still without power, and so they're offline, and that represents about 28 to 29% of the total number of customers without power. St. Andrew, 12,446 total customers. Customers who are offline, 5,671, and that represents about 28.9% of total customers who are yet to have power. Sorry, let me take that over again. St. Andrew, 12,446 total customers. The number of customers offline is 5,671, and that represents about 45.56%. So a little under half of the total number of customers in St. Andrew are without power at this time. St. Patrick is the parish that is lagging significantly behind. Of the 5,082 total customers, 5,043 are still offline. It represents almost 99% of the customers are still offline. And St. Andrew and St. Patrick are the two parishes that are most badly affected, followed by St. John, which has 4,524 customers in total, and we still have 1,278 customers offline, or roughly 30% of the customers. The restoration effort reflects the level of destruction wrought to the electrical system in the respective parishes by Hurricane Beryl. I visited St. Patrick this afternoon, and it is clear that St. Patrick is the most badly impacted parish in Grenada as a result of Hurricane Beryl. And that is coming on the heels of very heavy rains that we had in November of last year, which also did significant damage to St. Patrick as well. GRENLEC has indicated that it is optimistic that by Saturday, it should have 90 to 95% of complete restoration of power in Grenada. I want to take the opportunity to commend the team at GRENLEC for the alacrity with which they've been acting in restoring power and electricity throughout the island. The second slide is just essentially another graphic which demonstrates the situation as it relates to the restoration of power. The slide in green, the green demonstrates areas where electricity has been restored. The orange demonstrates areas in which it is in progress, and the red shows the outage. If you look at the map, you would see that all of St. Patrick is in red, and that demonstrates that pretty much almost 100% of the parish is still without electricity. And if you go to the beneath St. Patrick, St. Andrew, you would see its next area that has the largest concentration of areas that are still in red. St. John, you would see that there are a number of areas that are still without power. Closure, Florida, Brothers, Dr. Bell, Douglaston, Grand Roy, Mount Pleasant, all of these areas are without power, but all of the coastal areas in St. John and St. Mark, all the way up to Victoria, are with electricity. So it's the inner villages which are still without electricity in the case of St. John. In St. Andrew and in St. David, you will see as well that many of it is not necessarily on the coast, but in the inner villages. For example, in St. Andrews, Bylands, Marybo are on, but places like Mount Horn, Blaze, Carrier are without. In the case of St. David, Mount Agnes, Retreat, Apwitut, Pomrose, Mamacans, Munich, Mount Camel, Tuileries, Post Royal are still without electricity. There are some small areas in St. George, like Mondays and Hope Vale, which are without electricity. So we expect that by Friday, we should be in a position to provide a further update on the process to re-energize and provide electricity throughout Grenada. The situation in Carriacou and Petit Martinique is dire, and it will take a Herculean effort because GRENLEC is going to have to rebuild the grid and the plant almost from scratch. GRENLEC has already activated its regional request for assistance from CARILEC, which is the regional Caribbean body of power companies. And so we expect that both in terms of resources and personnel, that we will have to draw on the support from the region to ensure that we can begin the process of restoring electricity in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. It will start with significant cleanup, and then after with the rollout of the transmission and distribution grid, as well as the plant itself, which suffered significant damage. If I move on to water, yesterday I provided an update which was provided by NOASA, which indicated that NOASA was well on its way to restoring water in many parts of Grenada itself. As it stands, there are still some areas that are without water, but NOASA will be providing water trucks to ensure that it could supplement the situations where water is still not available. There are some parts of St. Patrick where water is not available, particularly the western part of St. Patrick, but it is coming back in places that were badly damaged, like Levera. This afternoon I was there, and there was in fact water in the pipes. So again, I want to thank NOASA for the efforts it is making in restoring water. I want to say to citizens who are still without water that every effort will be made to have the water turned back on as quickly as possible. But in the meantime, water trucks will be sent in the areas to supplement the making available of water supply for you. In terms of the additional issues that NOASA has to deal with, it clearly does require some additional support in treating with the situation in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Like almost every other state department or statutory body, the communication between Grenada and Carriacou has been difficult, and that's the same for NOASA. Currently, the acting manager of production and quality is in Carriacou, and he will be meeting with staff there. NOASA staff, like all staff of various government institutions, were badly impacted, and so food items, PPPs and care packages are being provided to NOASA staff there. And NOASA will also be coordinating counseling for employees in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. So we expect regionally, NOASA will get support via an engineer from the Caribbean Development Bank. It has also made some requests through ISRA aid for support. This will come through NADMA, and it has already also identified what are the emergency requirements relevant to the water sector in Grenada, and that will be shared as well with NADMA so that the necessary support can be obtained from sister water companies within the region. But water restoration in general is also well on its way, and we anticipate that by the end of the week, certainly in Grenada, that there ought to be a significant improvement, and for the most part, water restored to most of the country. That's it in relation to water. In relation to telecoms, we still are struggling, certainly in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Telecommunication is still virtually non-existent and spotty at best. We are awaiting a report from Flo We're also awaiting a comprehensive report from Digicel. Suffice it to say, though, that there has been significant destruction to the telecommunications infrastructure in Carriacou and Petit Martinique, and we are hopeful that by this time tomorrow night, we can provide you with a fuller update as to the telecommunications situation in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Regionally, if I may go to this, expressions of support and solidarity continue to come in both regionally and internationally to Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, together with the Prime Minister's Office, will be coordinating our response to the requests for solidarity, the requests of support, and the various donations that have been either from a monetary or from a technical perspective have been offered to Grenada, so that we can get the right technical support, as well as to acknowledge the kindness of contributions from various partners and countries. We want to emphasize, though, that this is going to be a very expensive restoration, rebuilding effort. It will have significant negative impact on Grenada's economy, as well as the government's budget and its fiscal situation, because in the case of Carriacou and Petit Martinique, we are going to have to rebuild from the ground up, literally, and we will have to be able to do so in a manner that could allow us to be more resilient and be able to withstand what clearly is now becoming a common trend of Category 4 and Category 5 monster storms that starts earlier and earlier in the year. So together with NADMA and the various government ministries, including the Ministry of Infrastructure, we are mobilizing to bring enormous resources to Carriacou and Petit Martinique to simply start the process. The airport terminal is completely gutted. Priority one will be to ensure that we can put a temporary roof on the terminal so we can begin to ensure that the airport can function not just currently as a sort of evacuation site or a site for the delivery of relief, but as an actual airport. The telecommunication system at the airport is currently down, so any aircraft flying into Carriacou is doing so without communicating with the tower, and obviously it is relying on the pilot's experience and skill. We want to obviously in the next several weeks be able to address this and have the telecommunication system back up so that there could be guidance from the airport authorities itself. We are also going to be focusing on major state infrastructure such as the police station to make sure that we can provide temporary roofing so that police officers can work and provide the safety and security for Carriacou. We'll be focusing on the hospital and the healthcare services. We'll also be focusing on the large schools which are either damaged, so that we can at least put temporary roofs over because we suspect housing will be a major challenge in Carriacou, and we may have to have shelters that are open for a prolonged period of time while we address the housing situation there. So any large building such as a school, a church, we are likely to give emphasis to this in the first instance, simply to allow people to have some kind of accommodation. And obviously, if we are going to be bringing people up to provide relief and support, even if they're construction workers, they need to find a place to stay temporarily while they're there. So I want to ask the population to bear with us. If you see that we are repairing schools or churches or the police station, first, it is really to ensure that we can actually help you to have a place, because we have to bear in mind we are only now at the start of the hurricane season. And so we need to put ourselves in a position that if further storms or hurricanes come, that we're actually able to withstand it until the end of the year. Tarpaulin distribution is going to become a major issue for those homes that are still partly standing, because we want to obviously minimize the risk to people from the elements, both the sun and the rain. Normally after a hurricane it can be exceedingly hot, and we experienced that already yesterday in Carriacou, and then you still have the rains to deal with. So we'll be focusing on tarpaulin distribution as well. Given the complete destruction of the electricity grid, the need for generators, both at a domestic level and at a more commercial level, is great. We are hoping that once electricity is restored by the weekend, particularly in St. John, St. Mark, St. Andrew, and St. Patrick, that we will move all of the generators that we have in those areas to Carriacou and provide additional support to our brothers and sisters there, so that they can at least have some basic energy to do things like charge their mobile phones and get a cold drink or produce ice, etc. So that's part of the emphasis that we'll be focusing on in the coming week. And we're also going to have temporary construction workers that are going to have to go to Carriacou to help us with the erection of temporary roofs and with some of the minor repair work that is required to at least make some of the facilities that survived more functional. So a comprehensive disaster recovery plan will be worked on in conjunction with the Ministry of Carriacou and PT Martinique Affairs. As you can imagine, Minister Andrews, I have not yet spoken to him except once since the disasters happened, and he too has suffered tremendous loss like other members of the Ministry of Carriacou and PT Martinique Affairs. But notwithstanding the challenge, they are soldiering on and they are doing everything they can to support their brothers and sisters in Carriacou and PT Martinique. So I want to take the opportunity to commend them for the tremendous work that they are doing. And as you heard from the police, there are no concerns about safety, security, or any impending threats. And I think that is partly due to the fact that notwithstanding the challenge facing the Ministry of Carriacou and PT Martinique Affairs, they are providing excellent leadership to the citizens of Carriacou and PT Martinique, and I want to commend them for that. So that's it for tonight. We will provide further updates tomorrow and in the coming days as we continue to pick up the pieces, as I've said to people, galvanized by galvanized, window by window, block by block, plywood by plywood. We have no choice but to rebuild this beautiful land of ours, holding each other's hands. I want to assure those who are impacted by the storm, who may not yet have seen any government officials or any NADMA officials, that we are on our way to you. You are not forgotten, but as you can well imagine, it is a mammoth task. And I want to thank the volunteers as well, who've helped and chipped in any way they can to try and help their brothers and sisters and the team here at NADMA in responding to this cataclysmic event. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister, for these updates. I know you're working triple overtime these days, and we want to thank you, as always, for your hard work in getting Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique back up and running. We have a few journalists online. We'll take those questions now. I know Michael Bascom, you're standing by with a question.
Good night. And just to follow up on the comment made by the Prime Minister, you know, and last night you actually made an impassioned plea for climate justice for small island developing states like Grenada, and your call for urgent global action, actually underscoring the pressing need for immediate and decisive measures. Now, we have notably a Grenadian from the sister, and incidentally from the Sister Isles, who holds the position of the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And I'm speaking of Mr. Simon Steele. And then we have several other Grenadians, such as the Senate President, Dr. Decima Williams, Dr. Spencer Thomas, Leon Charles, who have substantial experience in climate fund negotiations. And then, you know, Grenada is also poised to assume the chairmanship of CARICOM when, you know, when the time comes, when the regional heads decide to meet. And in addition to the local task force you mentioned last evening and even tonight, and after touring the devastation on the Sister Isle and then to the north of the island today, what leverage do you hope to bring to the international community to underscore the need for significant action on the climate crisis?
You know, as a small island, I think our leverage is our advocacy, and our leverage is showing the truth. And if you go and you stand on a site where a home was destroyed in 10 or 15 seconds by the ravages of a powerful storm, and you stand there with the family who have nowhere to go, no food to eat, no roof over their head, and the rain is about to fall again, if that doesn't demonstrate to the world the consequences of what climate change is doing, then I don't think anything else can. So I think for us, the leverage we have is our advocacy. The leverage we have is our storytelling. The leverage we have is telling the truth. The leverage we have is showing in real time what is happening. And that is why I was in Carriacou yesterday. That is why I was in St. Patrick this afternoon to tell the stories of ordinary Grenadians, ordinary islanders who work hard, who are honest, decent people, who follow all the rules, who get up every day, work hard, save their money, build their homes, send their children to school. And then we have large companies, large corporations, the industrialized world, which basically created a modern economic system that is addicted to hydrocarbons, that has warmed the Earth's atmosphere, warmed the oceans, and that has led to a situation where globally the entire world is suffering from cataclysmic climate events. It's not just happening in small island developing states, even in some of the industrialized countries it is happening. And if that doesn't make the world recognize that climate justice is something that is just, that is fair, and more importantly, that we need to ensure that we develop technologies that actually minimizes the continued impact of these events and that can build resilience and sustainability to the small island developing states, then in my mind, nothing will. So it is not just about appealing to the conscience of the polluters or the conscience of the people who created this. It's also about a world built on rules and the adherence to those rules and legal obligations and the need to honor your legal obligations. So we are not coming cap in hand here saying feel sorry for us. We are saying that you have committed wrong. The consequences of the wrong is that you are causing us loss and damage. And we are saying you have to pay. And even if it takes us 500 years, we will continue advocating for it. It's the same story of reparation. It's the same story of the ending of slavery. We can go on and on. Injustice everywhere is injustice. Injustice in a small island developing state will become injustice in a medium island developing state, and it will become injustice in a large developed country. So the bottom line is we must continue to fight, we must continue to advocate, and we must continue to hold people accountable. If not, then we will end up where we live in the law of the jungle, where might is right, the strong and powerful will do what they want. If that's the kind of civilized society or uncivilized world we want, then obviously they will ignore the issue of climate change, they will ignore the issue of climate justice, and they will continue doing as they do. But hope springs eternal. Our foreparents didn't give up under much more difficult circumstances, and I don't think this generation has any intention of giving up or quitting or stopping advocating on this issue.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Prime Minister, for your response. Michael, do you have a second question?
Oh, thanks very much.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
Mikey
thanks.
Hutchinson, you're standing by. We'll take your question at this time.
Good night to you, Presec, and to the Prime Minister and the other panelists. There are organizations and individuals outside of Grenada who are interested in using their resources to ship aid to Grenada. Are there plans to, for example, waive freight charges for those shipments that are coming into Grenada for the purpose of helping the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique?
Well, I think the Cabinet is going to discuss whether the customs duties and VAT, which ordinarily would be charged to goods imported into Grenada, will be waived for the purposes of the Hurricane Beryl Relief Program. I think the sort of instinctive inclination would be to do so. That will be discussed tomorrow with the Cabinet as part of our ongoing emergency meetings, and then we will make the necessary announcement. We have to make sure, however, that we do not find ourselves being made victims or double victims of these situations. So it will depend on who's sending the aid, it will depend on the type of aid that is being sent, and then the appropriate decision will be made. I think for us, clearly in a medium to long term, the rebuilding of the homes is going to be the most significant challenge. And since most of our building materials are obviously imported, and we also have local businesses here who engage in that sort of business. So I think that's part of the discussion we will have to have. But when it comes to things like immediate relief, food items, etc., they're coming into Grenada already, and we're not charging any duties or so on them. So in terms of the immediate needs, no duties and so on are being charged. Those things are entering the country, obviously, and are being distributed to the persons who are in need of them.
All right, thank you for that. I have another question. There tend to be a lot of ad hoc fundraising initiatives popping up here and there in aid of or in the name of helping the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Does the government have any plans, or are you concerned of those initiatives that are popping up? Because sometimes you can find people who might be bad actors. So is there an effort to kind of like channel all of these in one direction so that we don't have anybody raising funds in the name of helping Carriacou and Petit Martinique?
Well, It's a difficult question to answer. I can tell you what the government has control over. The government has its own bank accounts that have been established and have been notified to the public, where anyone wanting to make a financial donation specific to the Hurricane Beryl relief can send the funds. That is what we have control over. If a private individual within or outside of Grenada attempts to do a fundraiser in the name of Hurricane Beryl relief, we would have very little control over this. What we can say to persons who are approached is you would need to check the bona fides of the person doing it to determine whether or not they're legit and they will actually be handing the funds over, depending on what it is you asked for. If it's a financial contribution, then you can certainly do that directly to the government's bank account. You don't need to give it through any intermediary or a third party. But if it is people asking you for things in kind, again, you know, if you have the ability to ship it yourself, if you're from outside of Grenada, you simply need to address it to NADMA and ship it to NADMA, and NADMA will then make the necessary arrangements to clear it. But if people are seeking to aggregate goods in bulk and then ship it, you again will just need to verify that the person who's taking control of that process is someone who's legitimate. Ask them whether they've done it, you know, verify from NADMA whether they've reached out to them to say they are seeking to do this. But yes, we are concerned that there may be one or two persons who may try to benefit from the tragedy that the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique and Grenada have experienced over the last days. But hopefully, good sense will prevail, and hopefully it will be not something that is of any significance or widespread.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Mikey, do you have a last question?
Okay, I can take the opportunity now. I wanted to go to the police, Curwen. Good night. And I noticed that he mentioned damages to some police stations, but I just wanted him to elaborate a little bit on that in terms of how many stations that have been affected and to what extent.
Thanks for your question, Mikey. The two police stations that has been damaged significantly is we've lost the roof at the central police station, and as I indicated earlier, Carriacou police station has received some damages to its roof as well. Other stations have had leakages. There are not much damages to speak about. Those might be very trivial and easy to fix. In some cases, might be just doing some repair work in plugging some of the holes and some of the leakage points. So significantly, Central Police Station and Carriacou Police Station. Those are the two police stations that received significant damages by the passage of Hurricane Beryl.
All right, thank you, ACP Curwen. I do see somebody from Guyana online. If you have a question, you may proceed, and we'll wrap it up for this evening.
Mr. Prime Minister, Dennis Shabral, Demarar Waves. Sir, can you say how much money your government hopes to go back to Parliament to ask for as a supplementary estimate? And as the incoming chair of CARICOM, at yesterday's briefing, did you and your colleagues receive any information about criminal activities associated with the passage of Hurricane Beryl, such as looting and other forms of criminal activities?
I mean, there's been, certainly in the case of Grenada, there's been no looting in Grenada. In Carriacou, I don't know that we will call it looting. I think in light of the almost complete devastation that was brought, a few citizens are reported to have perhaps taken without permission food. As ACP Curwen has indicated, the police have not in fact arrested them in the current circumstances because it was perhaps more out of desperation. So in the context of Grenada, there's really been no looting. I do not have any reports of looting in a meaningful way in relation to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but I would say that would have to be confirmed by Prime Minister, the Honorable Ralph Gonzalez. Outside of those two instances, I have no other reports of any looting. Of course, Hurricane Beryl is over Jamaica, and so we would have to await any reports coming out of Jamaica in relation to that issue. I can't say at this stage what we would be going back to Parliament with in terms of a supplemental budget. We are still, we haven't yet entered the stage of detailed damage and loss assessment. We are it seems as if it's been a long time, but we are really in day 2 after the aftermath of the hurricane, and so we are still essentially dealing with just the immediate needs of people, the immediate need to get water, to get electricity, to get a tarpaulin, or to just find a place to live. The task force that we are putting together will spend, together with the team that will be working with them, will spend the next 2 weeks doing a detailed assessment across all sectors of the loss and damage that Grenada suffered. I want to particularly highlight the agricultural sector. In the case of carriacou, it's been wiped out, and in the case of St. Patrick and St. Andrew, there are significant loss of tree crops, both in terms of short-term crops and long-term crops within that sector. And so we are going to have a detailed assessment of that before we can make a determination as to what the fiscal position is going to be, and to that extent, how much of our budget would be required from a supplemental budget perspective. And additionally, our physical infrastructure, roads, bridges, etc., government public buildings, schools, police stations, hospitals, medical stations, all of these have been impacted. And so we obviously are going to have to look at that. So it's not just, in a sense, a supplementary budget for the year 2024, but it will certainly alter, I think, the budgets for the next 2 years coming after that as well.
Right, thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. We'll take the final question from ITV News. All right, it doesn't seem like they have a question this evening. So I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for viewing. It has been another long day. We continue to give you updates after the passage of Hurricane Beryl as it relates to Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. We want to thank you once again, Honorable Prime Minister, for your dedication towards building back Grenada, and also to NADMA for your hard work, and to the RGPF. Thank you, ACP Curwen, for joining us this evening. So once again, I bid you a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow for more updates.